No one noticed her anymore. Not when she walked slowly through the grocery store, counting coins in her trembling hand. Not when she sat alone on the wooden bench near the bus stop, watching people stare into glowing screens. Not even when she stood at the window of her small, aging house, looking out at a world that seemed to move faster every single day. Her name was Margaret Evelyn Carter. She was 82 years old. And according to the world, her story was already over. But this is the story of how the world was wrong. Margaret woke up every morning at exactly 5:30 a.m. She didn't need an alarm clock. Her body remembered a time when mornings mattered, when waking up early meant preparing breakfast for a family, packing lunches, and sending loved ones into the world with kisses on their foreheads. Now, the house was silent. Too silent. She swung her legs slowly off the bed, her knees aching as they touched the cold floor. The bedroom walls were filled with framed memories, black and white photographs of a young woman with bright eyes, a man in a military uniform, children with messy hair and wide smiles. Her husband, Robert, had been gone for 12 years. Her children. They were alive, but distant, busy. Margaret never blamed them. The world teaches you to run forward, not look back. She shuffled into the kitchen and made herself a cup of weak coffee. She had learned to make it weaker over the years. Her heart couldn't handle much anymore. As she sat at the small table, she stared at the empty chair across from her. That chair used to belong to Robert. She still hadn't moved it. After breakfast, Margaret did what she did every day. She turned on the television. Not because she loved it, but because it made the silence feel less heavy. News anchors spoke about technology, social media, artificial intelligence, influencers, and viral trends. Words that felt like a foreign language to her. Every screen showed young faces, fast movements, loud music. Margaret sighed. This world doesn't need old women anymore, she whispered to herself. She wasn't bitter, just tired. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. A loud buzzing sound echoed above her backyard. Margaret froze. At first, she thought it was a swarm of bees. Then she stepped outside, shading her eyes from the sun. That's when she saw it. A small drone, hovering clumsily in the air, wobbling left and right like it had no idea where it was going. And then, crash. It slammed straight into her old apple tree and fell to the ground. Moments later, a panicked teenage voice shouted from over the fence. "Oh no, 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 no." A boy climbed over the fence, his face red with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean to." Margaret stared at the strange machine lying in her grass. "What on earth is that thing?" she asked. The boy blinked. "A drone." Margaret frowned. "A what?" The boy's name was Ethan. He was 16 years old and lived next door with his mother. He explained that he was practicing drone flying for his school's tech club. Margaret listened carefully, her curiosity slowly replacing her confusion. "So," she said, pointing at the device, "you control that thing from the ground?" "Yes, ma'am," Ethan replied, smiling nervously. "It has a camera too." "A camera?" "Yes." Margaret's eyes widened just a little. "For the sky?" she asked softly. Ethan nodded. Margaret hadn't seen the world from above. Ever. Ethan offered to fix the drone and leave, but Margaret surprised both of them. "Would you show me how it works?" she asked. Ethan laughed at first, then realized she was serious. "Really?" "Yes," she said firmly. "I may be old, but I'm not dead yet." That was the first time in years Margaret laughed out loud. They sat on her porch as Ethan explained the controls. Margaret's hands shook as she held the controller. "I'll break it," she said. "You won't," Ethan replied. "And if you do, it's okay." Margaret slowly moved the joystick. The drone lifted into the air. Her breath caught in her throat. "Oh my," she whispered. For the first time in decades, Margaret felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Wonder. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the sky, about seeing the world differently, about how, for a brief moment, she wasn't invisible. She was learning. And without realizing it, Margaret Carter had just stepped onto a path that would change her life and shock millions around the world. Margaret didn't tell anyone what she was thinking. Not Ethan. Not her children. Not even Herschel. But something had changed inside her. The next morning, she stood at her kitchen window, watching the clouds drift slowly across the sky. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like the day was something to survive. She felt like it was something to discover. Ethan came back that afternoon. He stood awkwardly at her front door, holding the drone like a peace offering. "I fixed it," he said. "Mostly." Margaret smiled. "Come in," she said. "I made lemonade." They sat on the porch again. Ethan explained things patiently. Buttons, signals, batteries, cameras. Margaret listened like a student who didn't want to miss a single word. "But learning at 82 is not romance." "I see. It's frustrating." Her fingers didn't move fast enough. Her eyes struggled with the tiny screen. Her hands shook when the drone drifted too far. Twice, it crashed. Margaret's smile faded. "I told you," she muttered. "I'm too old for this." Ethan shook his head. "No, you're just new." Margaret looked at him, surprised. No one had called her new in a very long time. That night, Margaret felt pain in her chest. Not sharp, just heavy. She sat on the edge of her bed, breathing slowly, waiting for it to pass. Her doctor's words echoed in her mind. "Take it easy. No stress. At your age." At your age. She stared at her hands. Was she being foolish? Was she risking her health for a toy? She reached for her phone and almost called her daughter. Almost. But she didn't. Instead, she whispered into the quiet room. "I just want to feel alive again." Days passed. Margaret practiced every afternoon. Sometimes Ethan came. Sometimes he didn't. On those days, she practiced alone, quietly, patiently, failing again and again. Neighbors watched from behind curtains. Some smiled politely. Others laughed. One woman muttered loudly as she walked past. "Poor thing. Losing her mind." Margaret heard it. And it hurt. That night, she packed the drone back into its box. She sat at the kitchen table for a long time, staring at it. Maybe this was where the story ended. The next morning, Margaret received a call. It was her son, Daniel. They spoke briefly, about the weather, about groceries, about nothing important. Then Daniel said, casually, "Mom, you should slow down. At your age, it's dangerous to be trying new things." Margaret went quiet. After the call ended, she sat very still. The silence came back. Heavy. Familiar. And for a moment, she believed them all. That afternoon, Margaret took the box and carried it toward the trash. Her hands trembled. But before she could let go, she heard Ethan's voice behind her. "Mrs. Carter?" She turned. He looked at the box, then at her face. "You're quitting, aren't you?" Margaret swallowed. "I think this world has decided I'm done," she said softly. Ethan stepped closer. "My grandma died last year," he said. "She always said she wanted to try new things. Someday." He paused. "She never got the chance." Margaret felt tears burn her eyes. Ethan gently took the box from her hands and opened it. "Can we try one more time?" he asked. That evening, something clicked. Literally. Margaret adjusted the controls. The drone lifted, stead. Why this time? No wobble. No panic. It rose higher, and higher, and higher. Margaret gasped. On the small screen, she saw her house from above. The tree. The street. The neighborhood. And then the horizon. She covered her mouth with one hand. "Oh my God," she whispered. For the first time since Robert died. Since the house became quiet. Since the world moved on without her. Margaret felt free. Ethan recorded it on his phone. Not because he planned anything. Just because the moment felt important. Margaret laughed. Real laughter, echoing across the yard. "I'm flying," she shouted. That night, Ethan uploaded a short clip. The caption was simple. "My 82-year-old neighbor learning to fly a drone for the first time." He didn't expect much. Neither did Margaret. But while she slept peacefully for the first time in years, the internet was ABO. UT to wake up.